To be Nationwide 90 FM.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has again warned international leaders that the ability of small island states to tackle climate change is being hampered by inadequate financing. His declaration comes the same week that US President Donald Trump described the climate crisis as a con.
Our efforts and those of other SIDS are severely constrained by the lack of predictable access to financing. The promise of $100 billion annually remains unfulfilled. The Loss and Damage Fund established at COP28 was historic, yet its initial capitalization of $800 million is grossly inadequate. Developed countries must honor their commitments and scale up climate finance, recognizing that adaptation is a necessity for the survival of small island developing states.
The Prime Minister was addressing the UN General Assembly in New York on Friday. Dr. Holness used the opportunity to call for a rethinking of global climate financing models.
Jamaica also strongly supports innovative financing mechanisms, including debt for climate swaps, debt for nature swaps, and blended finance instruments that can unlock private sector investments in sustainable development projects while reducing debt burdens. We welcome initiatives such as the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Trust and call for its expansion to support more countries in building climate resilience.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. The JCF's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, is encouraging motorists to ensure their vehicles are properly maintained. The call comes following an incident in which a bus developed mechanical issues and overturned. The incident left 21 persons injured. Among those in the bus were students from Louise Bennett Coverley and the St. Martin de Porres primary schools. PSTEB says a well-maintained vehicle reduces the chances of mechanical failure that can lead to accidents. It says this protects the driver, passengers and other road users while also ensuring vehicles operate efficiently. PSTEB is urging motorists to do regular checks on their vehicle brakes, tires, steering, suspension and lights. It also suggests giving special attention to tire pressure, tread depth and wheel alignment to lower the chances of skidding, blowouts and the loss of control when driving. PSTEB says measures to enhance visibility when driving include clear functioning headlights, brake lights, indicators, and mirrors. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, is welcoming Dr. Marlon Simpson as its new Director of Therapeutic Services and Psychosocial Support. Dr. Simpson is one of the only 2 trained neuropsychologists in Jamaica. The CPFSA says with the other now retired, he brings a rare and valuable expertise to the agency's work with children in state care. A neuropsychologist is a specialized clinical psychologist who studies the relationship between brain function and behavior. They conduct in-depth assessments and diagnoses of cognitive, emotional, and behavioral problems. Dr. Simpson, who holds a doctorate in psychology, has a distinguished background as a clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, and lecturer. His professional journey includes prior roles as senior clinical psychologist at the Bellevue Hospital, clinical psychologist at the National Police College of the Caribbean, and associate clinical psychologist at CALM International and Macam Childcare Development Center. A submachine gun was seized and a major person of interest was arrested in major operations in St. Ann on Friday. The seizure took place in Green Acres, Miami Bay, where 3 premises were searched about 2 p.m. Mahiri Stewart reports.
Personnel from the Specialized Operations Branch, in collaboration with their St. Ann colleagues, seized a Kel-Tec submachine gun fitted with a magazine containing 16 9mm rounds of ammunition. The gun and ammunition were found at the rear of one of the premises. 1 Glock magazine with 12 9mm rounds of ammunition and 11 5.56 rounds of ammunition was also seized. 2 persons were arrested in connection with the find. Their identities are being withheld. 8 hours earlier at about 7 a.m., Senior Superintendent Carlos Russell and Superintendent Dwight Brown led another operation in collaboration with members of the Jamaica Defense Force in Bamboo. It was supported by several specialized units of the JCF. These include the Area 2 Fugitive Apprehension Team, the Criminal Investigation Branch, the St. Ann Divisional Intelligence Unit, and Proactive Investigation Unit, along with personnel from the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch PSTEB. During that operation, a person of interest along with several others were arrested. This includes a man who was wanted on an outstanding civil court warrant and 3 women. Another man was also arrested for breaches of the Dangerous Drug Act. SSP Russell says the St. Ann Police remain committed to fostering a safe environment for all. The JCF continues to encourage members of the public to report suspicious activities and share information by calling the police 119 number, the National Intelligence Bureau tip line at 811, or Crime Stop at 311. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says it's once again necessary to clarify its position on the implementation and deployment of body-worn cameras in response to continued misleading commentary circulating in some sections of the mainstream media. According to a release today, the JCF says it is worth noting that it has repeatedly issued public clarifications on the matter in keeping with the High Command's long-standing transparency and commitment to the full rollout of body-worn cameras across the force. It says, in the interest of transparency, the JCF has proactively disclosed budgetary and operational details that would not ordinarily be recommended for public discussion due to national security and strategic considerations. According to the JCF, for several months, it has publicly acknowledged that the force is actively engaged in the procurement of an additional 1,000 body-worn cameras, a process it describes as lengthy and complex. The JCF says rather than recognizing this as an update in the spirit of transparency, some outlets have chosen to reframe this information as a response to public pressure. This has been described by the force as not only inaccurate but disingenuous. It has been declared by the JCF that calls from various quarters for the mandatory use of body-worn cameras falsely imply resistance from the JCF. Nothing could be further from the truth, says the JCF. In a strident declaration, the JCF says the reality is that the police cannot be mandated to use tools that they do not yet have. It is insisting that the limited deployment of body-worn cameras is not due to a lack of will or reluctance on the part of the JCF. Rather, according to the JCF, it reflects the logistical and financial realities of equipping over 8,000 frontline personnel. Stand Up for Jamaica has joined lobby group Jamaicans for Justice JFJ in calling for legislation to mandate the Jamaica Constabulary Force to use body-worn cameras. JFJ launched the petition on Friday amid a 73% increase in police fatal shootings. In a statement, JFJ says the police's current body-worn camera policy is not binding and lacks mandatory enforcement. Jamaica has recorded 230 fatal police shootings since the start of the year. 20 have occurred during the month of September alone. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, says this represents the 10th consecutive month where 20 or more people have been shot and killed by the police. According to JFJ, 118 of the 2025 fatalities occurred during planned or tactical operations. Stand Up for Jamaica says body-worn cameras are not only to guard against misconduct, but also to shield officers and citizens from false or misrepresented claims. The group says cameras protect citizens and the public interest by ensuring that the use of force is documented and scrutinized. Stand Up for Jamaica is calling for the mandatory activation of body-worn cameras during all police interventions, especially operations in which force may be used. The group says police personnel should not have discretion to disable or deactivate the cameras during interventions. To news now on the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the deployment of U.S. troops to Portland, Oregon, authorizing the use of full force if needed. Trump said it was directing Secretary of State Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland. He claimed that the move would help protect any of the ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists, adding, on Truth Social, I am also authorizing full force if necessary. The announcement drew pushback from Democratic lawmakers who said there was no need for federal troops to be deployed to the city. And now to sport. England produced a dominant performance to defeat Canada at Twickenham and win the Women's Rugby World Cup for a third time. In front of a record women's rugby crowd of 81,885, the Red Roses, who had lost the previous two finals to New Zealand, laid that ghost to rest with an assured display built on their power up front and ferocious defence. The defeat by the Black Ferns in the previous World Cup final 3 years ago remains England's last loss as they extended their record-winning run to 33 games. Having conceded an early score to Flying Canada winger Aisha Hogan Rochester, the hosts and tournament favourites responded through a sensational solo score by Ellie Kildon. And now for a recap of the top stories making the news at this hour. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness warns international leaders that the ability of small island states to tackle climate change is being hampered by inadequate financing. CPFSA welcomes Dr. Marlon Simpson as its new Director of Therapeutic Services and Psychosocial Support. JCF clarifies its position on the implementation and deployment of body-worn cameras. You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. News is next at 5 tomorrow afternoon. Good afternoon.
Commercial space is for you. Parks and attractions